Hello, my friends, and for those of you who follow my channel and certainly my books, you know when I've got this background up on Zoom, what the message is probably going to be about. And you're probably right in this case. So I have been attending funerals lately, and I do use the plural. I don't like to ever use the plural. I don't even like to use the word celebrations of life, hospital visits. Some people actually get to go home from the hospital, and that is super cool. I love that part. And some people are in the hospital. Some people have, well, you guys know the drill. Surgeries coming up. All kinds of things are happening right now with our world, certainly, but our network. And so think about that. Your circle of friends has probably gotten bigger over the years. Well, actually, maybe smaller, depending upon how you've chosen to navigate. But for me, my circle of friends is, I mean, it's a fabulous opportunity to get to connect with people and build these all important relationships. But with the all important relationships, in my experience, comes the pain of watching other people suffer and go through some of the things that we've already gone through. Remember in my first book about grief, He Hit the Clouds Running and Never Looked Back, also recorded on this website, by the way. There, you can actually earn your PhD DD, which is personally having dealt with death degree, not only once you read my book, but once you've experienced death a few times yourself. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is sitting in the front row. What did she say? Sitting in the front row. If you have ever hosted a funeral, which means your loved one has died, and by the way, hosted a funeral, isn't that an interesting way to say it? I thought about that actually the other day. You're sitting in the front row. Your person is the one who has passed on, gone to heaven, however you say that. For me, it's homecoming. They get to go home to be with Jesus. That's kind of my thing. I love knowing where my people are. But you're sitting in the front row. And for those of us, a couple funerals recently, I have not been sitting in the front row. And that has been interesting to watch the navigation from the second or third row back instead of the front row. Now, please consider that for a second. If you have hosted a funeral because your loved one is the one in the casket or the urn or however you have done that, or the picture in the front of the room, you are on from a standpoint of everyone wants to come to you to hug and hopefully give condolences, as far as not, I'm sorry for your loss, but something besides that. And think in terms of the next time you go to a funeral, because quite frankly, I mean, it's happening. We're going to funerals. It seems like more these days. One of my friends actually said, well, honey, once you're old, of course you go to more funerals. Well, I appreciate that. But I choose to say that I'm 27 and I'm going to stay 27 forever. But the larger your circle of friends, the more seasoned you are perhaps on the planet, you do end up having people in your world die. Although some of my recent ones have not been the least bit senior, in my opinion. And those are the ones that you just kind of shake your head and go, wow, Lord, I wonder what you were thinking. And I realized that for me, in my family and my circumstances, God doesn't always go in order. You think of your elderly 95 or 100-year-olds possibly going home to be with Jesus. Some people live longer than that. Yay. But when you're sitting in the front row, it's an interesting perspective. The people, of course, are there to pay their respects, as they call it. And you are on from a standpoint of greeting your guests, if you will. And it is, for me, it is exhausting. And you are wiped out a million levels when the event is over. So when you are not sitting in the front row, what does that look like? You know what the people in the front row are feeling. You know what they're going through. You know what they're going to go through. Thus, you have earned your PhD DD, personally having dealt with death degree, because you know what it's like to sit in the front row. And now, maybe this particular funeral celebration of life, you're not in the front row. So, what do you do differently to comfort the ones in the front row? You've been there, done that, as they say. You know what this particular pain feels like. You know exactly what they're going to go through in the next days, weeks, months, years to come. I was with someone the other day and she said, well, she got married again, so she's feeling no pain. Okay. And that was obviously her take on a widow remarrying. And I thought that was very interesting because this person still has her original husband alive. So I thought, all right. Isn't it an interesting thing, once again, what people say, which is why I do these videos. myfinalfootprints.com is the website if you want to go see the books about grief. But it is interesting to me that people assume that if you remarry, or I can't even imagine what the rest of that looks like, you aren't suffering the death of your husband, your previous husband. And so that's just always interesting to me. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't remarry, for heaven's sakes, but for me, it wouldn't mean that you're necessarily over the first, second, third, fourth, 10th one. You are just choosing to move on with your life as far as get a new companion. So, but I just thought that was interesting. Apparently she's through mourning the first one. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And so anyway, the things that people say, in my opinion, are always interesting. And it's a judge not lest you be judged thing. If people have not been through some of this, they don't know what to say. And many times once they say something, they go, I bet that wasn't right, was it? You think? So I just wanted to share about, please don't let me sit in the front row anymore. Or when you know who is in the front row, and since you've been there before, you might know how to comfort them differently than some of the rest of the people in the funeral home or the church or wherever you're going for your celebration of life or the funeral. So the front row was an interesting concept for me, and I wanted to share that with you guys today. myfinalfootprints.com has both of my grief books on there if they're free. One is recorded video wise, and the other is an actual PDF document that you can print off to find out some of the things that you might want to consider leaving behind for those who love you most, as far as where's my mailbox key, who gets the cat, where's the vet, what does the cat eat, all that kind of stuff that a lot of people don't think about. And one of the biggies for me that people always go, oh my gosh, I even never thought of that. Do you want your funeral live streamed on Facebook? Do you want your social media up or down when you're gone? If you don't know the answers to these questions, neither do the people that you're leaving behind in death fog. And now they've got to make those decisions for you on your behalf. And you guys never even talked about it. So myfinalfootprints.com, my gifts to you. And I hope for all our sakes, we don't have to sit in the front row. Bye now.